Hello, and welcome to Little Live Story, the podcast where we take an anime and turn it into a movie.
And a movie turned into an anime.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Jared.
Hey, Jared, guess what it is?
What?
Number 5.
Yeah, it is number 5.
Yeah, and for number 5, the movie you're doing has absolutely nothing to do with the number 5.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd kind of have to work kind of hard.
No, I could have just made you do Short Circuit, Johnny 5.
You could have also maybe do I Am number 4
Or
and then
Fast-
just added a number 1 to it.
Or Fast 5.
So, okay.
We're not doing any of those.
Anyway.
Yeah, okay. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm all good.
Okay, for today, I need you to do King Kong. The original, the 1933 original King Kong.
Oh, okay. Well, I am familiar with the story of King Kong, but take me through it one more time.
Yes, sir. King Kong is the story of a ship full of people who go to the legendary Skull Island in search of the perfect location for a moving picture. Instead, they find a godlike ape, King Kong, who's 25 feet tall and worshipped by the natives. And eventually, after a bunch of madcap exploits and dinosaurs and mystical adventures, they end up taking Kong back to New York City to be the 8th wonder of the world, where he breaks out of his chains, grabs our leading lady, climbs the Empire State Building in one of the most iconic film finales of all time, and then dies.
It's kind of sad.
Beauty killed the beast. Cue the credits.
All right.
Got it?
Yes, I got it. So I'm going to reiterate that Eric has specifically stated he wants me to do the, 1933?
Yes, 1933 version.
Yeah.
With no metatextual data taken from any of the other versions, not Kong Skull Island, not the Jackson remake, not the 76 piece of shit, nothing else.
So
just
having
Kong.
seen other King Kongs, I have to throw that out of my head. So that's what I'm going for.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm even excising the Toho Kongs, which would be the easiest route for you to take.
We open with the streets of semi-modern, semi-ancient Japan. We're in Tokyo. We have a girl wandering on the streets, looking at vendors, looking at the passersby, and seeing several Americans walking around as well.
I have to ask, what the fuck does semi-modern, semi-ancient mean? That's a big slash between those two.
Well, so this isn't modern Tokyo. So
Okay.
this isn't like with westernized buildings and like that style. There is still the old architecture of Tokyo still here.
So
like
pre-war, I guess?
it's
we'd call it?
actually post-war.
Pre-reconstruction?
Pre-full reconstruction.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, so she's wandering around, basically looking up and down, and she continually opens a notebook, flips through it, writes a couple notes, and then continues on. She ends up having a conversation with someone on the street. They talk for a little bit, and she reveals that she is an aspiring novelist that is looking for the next big story to write about, and she's looking for inspiration.
This woman, I assume, is Japanese herself.
Yes, she is.
Cool.
We see then, as the camera pans upward,
Actually, a camera can't pan up. It would be a tilt up. Panning is left and right. Common mistake.
the camera looks upwards, and we see several American P-51 Mustangs flying overhead. The camera then looks back down at the main character as she continues on her journey. We pass by an American soldier who's standing on a stage of some kind. He's talking about how great America is and how America winning the war will help bring prosperity to Japan and yada, yada, yada.
Timing, bro.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's also revealed through this spiel that it is now 1948. So,
48, okay.
Yes. So the war with Japan is over, but Reconstruction's still going on. She starts traveling towards the docks and begins to hear about some Americans that are putting on an exposition to a Japanese island where a quote-unquote living god resides. This gets her interest piqued, and she finds out where the ship is actually by bribing the person that she was hearing this from.
Word.
And she sees this big ship. Name doesn't matter, but I'm sure it's shown in like big dramatic reveal.
I mean, in the original, it's the Venture.
Okay, so it's like USS Venture.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Cool. Since it's American, it can say the same.
Yes.
Rock on.
And she sees a bunch of American tough guys basically loading up the boat with full of crates and things and a whole bunch of things.
Sailor stuff.
Yes, basically. She then, using stealth, sneaks onto the boat and manages to hide below the deck. This ends episode 1.
No, she's a stowaway.
Yes, she is. Episode 2 begins. We're at night now. We're already on the sea, and the main character is now peeking up. She's very hungry. So she's trying to basically snag some food from somewhere. She comes across our resident. Well, I'm just going to explain what he's replacing. This is a young Japanese boy peeling potatoes. And for those that don't know, there was an old Chinese man peeling potatoes on the boat. So he's replacing that guy.
Oh, that wicked, offensive Chinese caricature in the movie is replaced with an American boy?
No. He's a young Japanese boy.
Oh, sorry. But he's still filling that niche.
Yes, yeah. He's that guy.
Okay, I assume less offensive.
It is because it's an anime, so
He's like animes are not immune to offensive content, my friend.
No, but it's more that he's the sympathetic character painted in this way.
Cool.
So he sees her sneaking around and like whatnot, and he offers her one of the potatoes, and he's like, "Here, I can give you some food." And she explains she's a stowaway, and she heard that the Americans are going on some big expedition. And he's like, "Yeah, I just am here because I needed some money to help feed my family after the war. Times are hard." So they have a short conversation, and they're getting along and whatnot. And then she hears a sailor coming down on the boat, and she hides back inside the deck. We have a lot of time on them on the ocean, like of her bonding with this character, her hiding away from the sailors and whatnot, until we eventually arrive on the island.
So she doesn't even get seen until they get to the island?
Yeah.
And she's only interacting with Sailor Boy.
Yeah, he's feeding her.
Potato Boy.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's not just feeding her potatoes. He is stealing her other food as well, but...
You gotta fight that scurvy.
But yeah, so he's the reason that she's able to keep hidden because he also is covering for her.
Okay.
So they arrive on the island, and she is the first one to basically sneak off the boat. She uses the anchor line to go into the water and swim to shore. When she's on shore, she dries herself off and then goes talk to some of the locals, while she sees in the distance the Americans slowly disembarking. When she starts talking to the locals, she hears about this living god, as she asked them, and they say, yes, there is a living god on this island. His name is Congo.
So, well,
They
I guess
speak Japanese. Yes.
Okay, so they're less natives?
Yes.
Okay.
From the Americans' perspective, which is important, they are backwards people because they are living very much in like feudal Japan style houses and whatnot. And American propaganda during this time is very important. So to them, they're natives. But to our main character, they're just Japanese people.
They're just peasants.
Yeah.
That's good shit. All right, go on.
She learns that this living god is called Congo, and that he resides beyond the giant wall that their ancestors have built in a jungle that has not been explored for centuries, and that they leave alone because it's too dangerous. Then the Americans fully arrive, and they start causing trouble. They start not pushing people around, but they start making demands.
Doing American shit.
Yeah, they start saying they have permits and they have the American government's approval to film on this island and explore and whatever. And all the locals are like, what the hell? This is our house. Like, you can't just come in here and that kind of stuff. Another thing that's really important is the Americans only speak English. It's only written in Japanese subtitles what they're saying. Generally, what they're saying isn't usually important to the plot. It's just
directives and orders.
Yeah, it's things that if you missed, you could just sort of gloss over.
You could imply it through their body language or whatever.
But they're only speaking English throughout the entire anime, unless they specifically say otherwise.
Gotcha.
With the Americans causing trouble and the villagers basically distracted, she ends up going up to the gate, looking at this giant door with a giant bar on it, mesmerized by the scale, size, and architecture of it. She just doesn't understand what they could possibly need such a large gate for such a small island for. Then she notices a small divot underneath the wall, a few yards, meters, I'm not great with distance, but a little bit away. And she manages to basically worm her way under the wall that way, entering a jungle. The next while, we spend watching her trudge her way through the jungle, thick brush, giant animals and whatever. She spends a lot of the time running away from giant bugs, dinosaurs, birds, all manners of
We're just
crazy.
glossing over that.
Yeah,
She is hardcore. As someone who considers himself a writer, good God in heaven, would I not brave giant bugs to write a book?
Me neither, but this girl has a mission, and she wants to write a goddamn book.
Okay.
Eventually, she ends up getting chased by a T-Rex, and this is where she's like, I can't even. Like, so she's running and hiding and running, and the T-Rex is not letting up. Until eventually, she runs to a cave, is about to enter, when a giant gorilla comes stomping out.
Nice.
Steps right over her head and punches the T-Rex. A fight ensues, which ends up in the same way it does in the movie with King Kong, well, actually King Congo,
Thank you,
doing his signature, ripping the jaw open more. I don't really
wide
know.
and breaking the jaw.
Yeah, he breaks the jaw.
Yeah, everybody loves that.
Yeah, well, it's an amazing part.
Hardcore.
Also, another thing that needs to be stated is in the 1933 version, King Kong is always stop motion claymation, right?
Stop motion.
Stop motion. So in this version, King Kong is always animated. 3D animation.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So he always stands out amongst the backgrounds, amongst the characters. There's always a different styling on him.
That's interesting.
So after King Kong brutalizes the T-Rex, he then picks up the main character and brings her back inside the cave and just starts playing with her, like the way you would with a doll.
And I assume she is not super into this.
Very much so. He is picking her up and putting her next to a rock and like pretending like he's gonna smash her, and then putting her on something tall and seeing how she tries to climb down. He's a toddler playing with a toy. Over the next several scenes, we see her continually try to escape and continually get thwarted by King Kong. He's just too efficient at catching her.
And she's 1/5 the size.
Exactly. She just simply cannot get far enough. It's now where we cut back away to the village, and we see the Americans pulling down that giant bar. The villagers are profusely protesting. They're like, please don't do it. You'll doom us all. And the Americans are completely ignoring them. They have film crews. They have guns. They're all prepared, and they're going to go right into the jungle.
Americans.
The main character tries again to escape from Congo, and...
You can just say Kong.
Yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter. And ends up running right into the arms of the Americans, who honestly aren't surprised to see her because there's a lot of Japanese people on this island. They don't really know she was a stowaway. And King Kong comes running right up to the Americans, bats a whole bunch of them right away, and takes her, and then runs back to his cave. The Americans start talking amongst themselves like, what does King Kong want with her? What does he need her for? And they devise a plan amongst themselves, which we don't hear yet. Cut back, we see King Kong continually doing his own stuff. By this point, he's kind of gotten bored of her, but he wants her as his, possession, basically.
Yeah, she's still in the cave, but he's just fucking around.
Yes, exactly. The Americans now are sneaking into the cave, and they're setting up positions. They all have what looks to be small bombs. At once, one of them calls out, now! They run over to our main character and grab her and start dragging her away, making a show of it. King Kong...
honestly surprised they give a shit about her.
It's not about her. It's the fact they're trying to rile him up, which is part of the plan.
Gotcha.
Now that King Kong is distracted by that scene, all the ones that were surrounding him on either sides throw out their what are now revealed to be gas bombs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
And King Kong is successfully knocked out.
Whoops.
The next short bit is a scene of them tying up King Kong, calling in some support, and the main character being put on the boat and used as collateral because they don't know what King Kong's obsession with the girl is, but they know that to him, she's important. But all of that's very glossed over. We don't get most of the details of how they move King Kong. It's just shown that they are.
And so all of the Americans are basically this faceless mob at this point. We haven't really diversified or introduced any of them by name.
Yes, they are just the
Americans.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
They all end up back on Japanese soil in Tokyo in a small theater. The Americans backstage, we can hear talking about how once this show's over and once they get all the paperwork all set up, they can bring this monster back to the U.S. mainland and preferably to New York so they can make a whole bunch of money off this, which is clearly their plan from the beginning. So they put on what amounts to the same kind of show they did in the movie where King Kong's on stage, chained to the giant cross, basically.
Big song and dance, an introduction of dramatis personas.
Exactly. And they also parade our main character around in front of King Kong, and they show her off, and they're like, oh, this girl is the master of King Kong and we tamed her and therefore we tamed the beast, and yada yada yada. They're just talking it all up. Mm-hmm. King Kong, not liking that his plaything, his toy, his friend, we're not sure, is being manhandled, eventually breaks out of its chains.
Classic.
Goes on a rampage, breaks out of the playhouse or wherever they are. Now that it's on a rampage, the main character runs after him. We see now the sailors talking to the U.S. Army saying there's a monster on the loose, you guys have to stop it. And the U.S. Army is like, yeah, we're going to stop a giant monster from killing everybody. She chases after King Kong for a while and sees that the U.S. Army is gearing up for a fight. She goes then to talk to the U.S. Army general and is like, hey, please stop it. It's just confused. It doesn't know where it is. I don't know what this thing is either, but it doesn't mean you guys should just kill it, but they're having none of it.
Naturally.
And a plan is set in motion where they're going to call in the Air Force, or I think actually the Air Force was created in 1948. So by this point, it is the Air Force and not the Air Corps. It's details. I'm a World War II historian. Besides the point. Now, I wanted to include a scene where King Kong was climbing the Tokyo Tower, which would be as iconic as it climbing the Empire State Building.
To Japan.
Yes, obviously. Unfortunately, it wasn't built yet.
Oh, wow. 2 history facts in a row. Look at me.
So I can't do that. And we're going to have to miss out on such an iconic image.
We already got that in the Toho movies. Well, sort of.
I'll take your word for that. So it's just jumping from building to building, stomping on things, and breaking things. It's not necessarily climbing anything.
Is he killing people? Because, I mean, in the original, he kills the fuck out of a good number of people.
It's assumed that he's killing people. It's not, again, really shown in great detail, but he is cleanly stepping on houses that you can hear screams from inside. He's, like, throwing cars and
Soft,
wagons.
Marvel-esque PG-13 violence that doesn't really get grisly.
Exactly. Like, people assumedly are dying, but there's no
We're not showing bodies or anything ridiculous.
Yes.
Okay.
So the planes come in, and they're doing multiple sweeping attacks against King Kong, which he's swatting at them. All the while, the main character is basically pleading that they let him go back to his island. She doesn't really have a plan of how that's going to happen, but she's just like, just leave him alone. He's just scared. Eventually, one bullet strikes him in the eye. He goes even more crazy, flipping out, covering his eye while it's bleeding out. And then another bullet strikes in his ear, through his armpit, into his heart, into his leg, and just their bullets are actually now hitting.
Good God.
And he goes down.
Jesus
Bloody mess.
Christ.
The main character now kind of crying. Like, she's not full sobbing, but she's not
happy.
Yeah. The U.S. Army basically goes, well, job well done, guys.
Yeah, everyone's shaking each other's hands and fucking patting each other on the back. Just, oh, great job, boys. Great, good kill.
And we cut. We then have a title card that says 3 months later. And we see our main character now eating mochi at a small restaurant place, writing things down in a book. She's now recounting to herself the story of what she went through. And she's writing a brand new book entitled King Kong. And that's where we end it.
All right. 2 follow-ups.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, more backpedaling.
Yes.
But where was the decision to excise every single character except for Anne?
Well, I wanted to make the Americans the bad guys. So putting a character among them would kind of disillusion that.
I guess, but I mean, they're not like shooting people.
No,
vilified.
of course not. But it was more focused on her. I didn't necessarily emphasize the importance that the boy that was peeling potatoes had.
Well, you did until he entirely disappeared.
Yeah, he plays more of a role, especially after she gets back. But I just honestly forgot to re-mention him. But
fine.
he does play a role in that as well.
I was wondering. And second question then.
Yes.
With Anne, why does this Anne care about Kong? Because again, the original, the 33 version, which we, recently watched, there isn't all that much of that. I mean, there's tragedy in Kong getting killed by the military because he's pulled out of his element, but she's more like, holy shit, save me. She's not explicitly like, kill him, but she's also not screaming to get him saved. That's more of a recent thing.
Part of it is, and I might be wrong on the term, suspension bridge effect, because she was saved by Kong from the T-Rex. Despite how he was treating her, she was saved by King Kong.
So a monster version of Stockholm Syndrome?
Basically a little. But the other reason is because we humanize the natives in the story.
Yeah, I was about to say, I hope it's symbolic.
Yes,
yeah.
it is. That's exactly what's going on here.
Yes.
The Kong being living god, and that the natives is...
The Americans are trampling on Japanese heritage in favor of modern industry, and good shit.
Well, I wasn't going to put it in those eloquent words, but yeah, that's the kind of idea I was going for.
Good shit.
Yeah.
All right, so last question then. How long is this? I assume just another 12 episode?
Yeah, this is a standard anime.
Yep, cool. All right, so King Kongo is Dunzo.
Yep.
Now what? What do I do?
All right, your challenge is the legendary Cardcaptor Sakura.
I thought it was Sakura.
Shut up. We're not talking about the English dub here. We're talking about the proper pronunciation. The cherry blossom meaning Sakura.
We watched the English dub.
I know.
They said Sakura.
But they're wrong because they don't pay attention to the things that are supposed to be. It's not, the cherry blossom in Japanese is not Sakura, it's Sakura. That's just how it's said. It's Cardcaptor Sakura, and you are wrong for believing otherwise.
I've only ever heard people call it Cardcaptor Sakura, so there's that.
Yeah, because that's what her name is.
Yeah, I guess human beings. Okay, anyway, give us our plot recap and stop yelling at me.
Cardcaptor Sakura is about a young girl who discovers a magic book in her father's basement, which contains the Clow cards. These Clow cards all are personifications of certain magical abilities, and they all escape all at once. I'm not 100% sure how they do that, but they just go. Then a magical guardian of the book appears and tells her that it's her responsibility to clean up her own mess. She needs to go and recapture all the cards. And gaining new abilities along the way, she meets new friends, meets new enemies, and is able to win the day.
Okay.
It's a quintessential...
Gotta catch them all.
Well, I mean, a little, but it's very quintessentially a magical girl anime.
Yes. All right. So we open with a big, swirling, mythical Lord of the Rings style lore scene.
Okay.
We have a female narrator who's telling us all about what you essentially just did, where there's these card captors and there's these magic cards that are, again, the personifications of magical creatures or magical abilities or such and such. And she's explaining all of this big, dramatic, again, Lord of the Ringsy lore about what's going on and explaining how card captors, as they're called, because this is called Cardcaptors.
Well, at least you're not saying the name wrong in the title.
Nope. But she's talking about how card captors are usually a generational thing, how they pass down the mantle from mother to daughter, mother to daughter, mother to daughter, and so on and so on and so on. While she's giving us this information, a more lighthearted voice is popping in to make sort of amendments to what she's saying. Every time she says something dramatic, we get this sillier voice that kind of chimes in and gives some lore nuggets, but kind of asides.
So, like, we'd get, and the Cloud Card's abilities cast doubt upon all that saw them. But sometimes they made them really happy.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of silly levity thrown in the middle of this. We are not afraid to have a little bit of fun with this.
Okay.
Anyway, at the end of this scene, our narrator ends by saying something along the lines of, the cards are very important and they must not fall into the wrong hands. And then knock, knock, knock. There's a knock at the door and we are dropped from this
Lore dump.
more or less, into reality. And we see our narrator, who's this older woman sitting on a bed. She's writing an entry in this big dramatic magic book that's gold and red and beautiful. And what she was writing was what the narration was, an abridged version.
For the record, does this look like the Cloud Card book, or is this a similar looking book?
I think it does. What did the Cloud Card book look like?
It was like gold,
Yeah,
it had
gold and red.
laces, and
Yeah.
it had like a lion on the front and whatnot.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Age it up a bit, make it look old and dramatic.
Okay.
But anyway, this was our narrator, and she puts the book away, closes it, and says, come in. In walks who will become our lead, a young girl. Her name is Sherry, but everyone calls her Cherry.
Okay.
She's pretty young and she walks in. Maybe she had a bad day at school. Maybe she had a nightmare. It doesn't matter. She needed her mother to comfort her for something. Hops up on the bed and they have a really cute, just brief introductory scene where she cuddles up to her mother and asks her to read her a story or something cute. And at the end of the scene, the mother has the dramatic anime cough into a handkerchief and we see blood.
Oh, yeah,
I wonder,
that all good one.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder what's wrong.
Well, if this is anime, that blood might actually just mean she can tough it out for the rest of her life.
God damn it. No, it doesn't, because we cut and we see Cherry a good bit older. If she was 10 in the flashback scene, she's 16, 17 now or something. And she's in the middle of sports of some kind. She's at a gymnastics competition or she's playing soccer. Yeah, exactly. Some kind of thing like that. She's in the tail end of a really intense game of some kind of sports or some kind of competition. Her dad is in the audience and her little brother, her mother is not there.
Oh, so not an older brother, a little brother.
Yeah.
Older brother's best character.
You keep saying that.
He is.
Well, I didn't see him do anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, she performs very, very well in whatever the hell sport we decide she's doing. We can tell she's very athletic and very determined. She comes in second/silver medal. So very good.
Okay.
We cut and her dad is hosting a mini party/celebration with her friends and his friends and her brother's friends back at their house. Just a big congratulatory. There's balloons and cake and food. It's the end of the sports season kind of thing. So, and she came in second. So well done. And her dad's very supportive. So just a nice little party. And through this party, we introduce all of our secondary characters. There's not a ton of them, but we introduce her dynamic with her father, who's just kind of a sad older guy who misses his wife, her younger brother who looks up to her, and a friend of hers who would feel right at home in a found footage movie because they're always carrying a camcorder and recording everything. Or I guess since this is modern day and I'm old, not a camcorder, their smartphone, I guess.
Your favorite character, the one that gives her outfit.
Sure. Anyway, so we get these bits of introductions and their relationships established. And then Cherry, decides to be alone for a minute. Maybe she's coming down off of her adrenaline high, or maybe she's just that kind of person. So she slips into her mother's old study. Place is dusty, hasn't been touched in forever, clearly. And that, just through environmental storytelling, tells us that this family doesn't really talk about this that much, especially if they haven't touched her stuff in probably years.
Yeah.
But so she's alone in this office, and we can hear the music and the revelry from the next room. She takes a moment to breathe, but something catches her ear. Something rattles behind a bookshelf or something. She approaches with eyebrows cocked, a little bit nervous because there should be no one in here, and they don't have a cat.
Not that I know of.
She approaches, rounds a corner, no one's there, but she sees the big magical book on a shelf. It's slightly hidden, but something about it catches her eye. She approaches it very slowly, very tentatively, reaches out a hand for it, and just before her hand touches it, we hear a voice. That obnoxious-ish voice from the opening lore dump, and we see our mascot character. That's just what I'm going to call him, because that's what it is.
He is 100% the mascot character.
In the anime, they were like some kind of Winnie the Pooh monster critter little thing.
They were like a chimera. They were basically a lion
It was Winnie the Pooh with wings and a tail.
Yeah, basically.
So sort of like that, a moderate redesign just to make them look a little bit cooler, but they are still a sentient CG creature that kind of bounds around and flies. So we can keep the general design.
Okay.
And we'll keep with the lion symbolism since you said there's a lion in the book and this thing's lion-esque. So yeah. So the mascot exposition dumps at Cherry. They talk about how they've been watching Cherry since she was a kid and how her mother would be so proud of how she's grown up and how maybe it's time for her to take up the mantle. And Cherry just backs away, arms raised, like, what the hell are you talking about? Kind of freaked out by this, supernatural creature who's babbling at her. And the mascot ends this dump of rapid fire dialogue by saying something about the book and gesturing. Cherry looks at the book, says, what, this book? And with a gesture of her arm, it knocks into the shelf. The book teeters, falls. Just before it hits the ground, the mascot flies over, saves it from hitting the ground, immediately throws it back on the shelf and starts reprimanding Cherry, saying, do you know how important that is? Do you know what could have happened? This is really important. Cherry says, no, I don't know. Thanks. And Cherry...
Well, at least she didn't fuck it up like she did in the anime.
Nope. Cherry washes her hands of this, says, I'm out. Bye. Walks back into the party, closes the door. We cut to later. Maybe they're doing a cleanup after the party. It's her and her dad and her brother, and they're throwing trash into bags and such. And Cherry asks her father about her mother. She's trying to probe for information that the mascot was alluding to about her mother being, I don't know, a fucking superhero? And her dad just doesn't seem to know anything about this, just kind of gets nostalgic and kind of wan and sad about it. And
yeah, she used to rant and rave about being a superhero all the time.
No, he just starts staring off dramatically into the distance. Cherry, realizing this is getting her nowhere, just kind of hugs her dad, says thanks for the party, goes up to bed or whatever. And then that night, she's sitting in bed just thinking about what's going on, She can't focus, she can't sleep. She stands up, walks into the office, goes up to the mascot who pops their head out of wherever they were hiding, and says, I want you to teach me.
Okay, that's definitely different than being forced into the position.
Mascot goes into the very same lore dump we heard at the beginning, except they hand Cherry the book, carefully open it to the page that her mother wrote in, so she gets the exact same lore dump we got, except we don't have to hear it again.
Yeah.
So we just cut to the end of the scene, basically, and then we hear Cherry ask one follow-up question just to confirm to the audience what she now knows. Then they hear a beep from the corner, and her friend, the one with the camera, is right there recording. The mascot zips over, yanks the camera away. The friend freaks out, and there's a bunch of confusion. The friend is asking a million questions, like, what the hell is that? What is that? Rapid fire questions. People are talking over each other. The mascot's flying around trying to decide whether or not the mascot should wipe his memory or kill him or throw him out. And Cherry's like, no. In the confusion, someone, we don't see who, knocks over the table where Cherry had set the book. The book lands, rolls, clatters, opens wide, and all of the cards fly out. They fly through the window, they fly out the door, they fly under the door, they fly through the wall. They're going everywhere. The mascot wildly tries to catch a bunch of them, doesn't get a single one, maybe grabs one and then gets knocked out of the way, and the cards are all just flying out.
Okay, so that brings me to two questions.
Go.
The first one is, in the anime, half the book is basically a card holder. So you see all the cards like stacked in there. Is it like that?
Yes.
Okay. And then the second thing, which I assume you'll tell me in a second, did one get saved?
I will tell you in a second.
All right.
I also, since you didn't ask, but I have to establish something, the way things work is a little bit different in this.
Okay.
Because in this version, similar to the anime, when you hold a card, you can use the magical abilities of whatever that card had.
Okay.
Again, let's say it's a fire drake, you can throw fireballs, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But you're not supposed to hold on to the cards for too long. It's kind of a strain on the human body because humans are fucking humans. So you're meant to house them in the book and remove them when you need to use the ability.
Interesting.
Oh, up to a point. Like, you won't go Sauron evil if you hold on your pocket, or you won't get cancer. It's just
You're just a little weak. You just get weaker.
You're not really supposed to have like 6 in your pocket for a month. It's just not how it works. So you're supposed to catch them, use them as needed, and then put them back in the book. Just needed to establish that now.
Okay.
So during all this chaos, Cherry tackles her friend, hides under a desk while everything flips out, and then the mascot goes nuts after everything's gone, flips out, says, the book's empty. This is worst case scenario. Oh my God. This is terrible. We need to solve this right now. Flipping balls.
Yeah.
Half explaining, oh my God, what if they fall into the wrong hands? What if this? What if that? Cherry tells the mascot, just calm down. And then the mascot says, okay, what are we going to do about it? We need you to do this. Cut. We're at school the next day. Cherry essentially said, I don't fucking care. This is your thing. What am I going to do? So Cherry is just sitting in homeroom class, whatever, sitting at her desk, just tapping her foot. Clearly she's edgy. She's thinking about it, but she's trying not to. And her friend nudges her, a few desks away and whispers, so what are we doing about all this? Come on. The friend is really into this.
Yeah.
And Cherry's kind of, I don't know. Shut up. Then a few desks away, or maybe out the window, the mascot pops their head up.
Oh, God.
And Cherry just, oh, shit. Excuse me, teacher, can me and my friend go to the bathroom? Teacher, whatever, we cut. And then the mascot, the friend, and Cherry are all hiding in a broom closet or a bathroom or something. Well, the mascot is explaining, there's a card here. The first one that we have to reclaim is right here in your school. We have to get it right now. And Cherry, doing her absolute best to calm this freak of nature down and get them to chill, says, I can't do that right now. This is my school. There's people here. Everyone will see. And Cherry talks the mascot down into waiting until nightfall.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
Yeah. So I don't know if you established it before, but how old is our main character and her friend?
17. They're like high school seniors.
Okay. So rather than being like, I think it's 4th grade in the anime.
They're call it high school juniors.
Okay.
So we cut, and it's nightfall right outside the school, and the mascot helps them sneak over a fence or whatever. And the mascot hands Cherry the staff, that Cardcaptor weapon thing. It looks like a pickaxe.
A little.
And half explains how it works. Cherry kind of takes it, realizes, wow, this thing that looks like it should weigh 70 pounds weighs nothing to me. So she just inspects it, thinks, okay, this is kind of cool. Her friend is filming this whole time.
Yeah.
And so we see our first card monster thing, and just like the anime, it's kind of this Mole Tracy pretty phoenix bird thing that is flying around the innards of the school. It's big, but I mean it's like a condor. It's the size, it's just big enough to fit inside.
Gotcha.
And they have this madcap chase through the school, chasing it past lockers, through science labs, all this. Cherry demonstrating she has a decent knack for this because she's very athletic, she's very determined, and she eventually weakens the thing, corners it, and then the mascot says or explains how she's supposed to do it. Focus your energy or whatever the fuck. And the weapon will cardify, capture the beast thing.
Gotcha.
And so just like in the anime, after it's cornered, she uses the weapon, the staff, and it shoots out a beam that basically Ghostbusters traps the creature and turns it into its kind of medieval looking tarot card with the bird on it.
Gotcha.
And while she's holding this, essentially reveling in her first victory, like, holy shit, I did it. She starts flying because the bird can fly. And she's a natural. She's a Cardcaptor, so she's a natural at this. And she starts floating up through the hallways. It's like, oh my God. Friend films this. There's a moment of just, oh, holy shit, this is real, blah. So then we jump to sort of a montage of the friend uploading videos of her doing this semi-superheroisms with the face blurred, making ad money on YouTube, and her using her new power of flight and whatever she gets to capture all of the local cards, because there's a bunch, they spread out in every direction. There's a bunch of ones. Maybe she captures a shapeshifter thing or a knight, and then she gets like a sword. So there's a bunch of, again, tarot card-esque or somewhat elemental things. we don't really, it doesn't really matter because
Okay.
most of them she puts back in the book as she's instructed to do.
Which is something actually brings me to a question from earlier. How many cards are there?
52.
Okay, so we're going with the anime version, not the manga version.
Yes, because it has a good ring to it and there's a lot.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it makes sense with the deck of cards.
Yeah.
Though I don't think tarot decks have 52, but also I don't know.
No, but that's the manga is based on the tarot cards. The anime is based on.
Oh, I'm having my cake and eating it too.
All right.
So at the end of this montage, the friend, the mascot, and Cherry concoct this plan to capture all of the rest of the cards. The mascot shows them this magical map just of the area where the cards are, which is essentially the continental United States. And they're spread out. If we're on the East Coast, say we're in Pennsylvania, they're spread out all the way to the freaking Rockies already, and they're just dotted throughout the country. And they make a plan to, since it is now on the verge of summer vacation, do a road trip that takes them through all the places where the cards are so they can, hopefully by the end of the summer, do a round trip and get everything.
And the parents are just, the father is just okay with this?
He's very supportive and he wants his daughter to have a life. So she broaches this not as a quest to capture fucking magic cards.
This isn't the quest for Camelot.
No, it's just she broaches it as a trip from one coast to the other on the eve of their senior year of high school. He loves his daughter, gives her his blessing, and they leave.
All right. Pretty liberal father.
And
I'm not complaining.
And then it becomes almost a road movie for only like 15 minutes or so. And we get a few quick scenes of just traveling and character development with them catching a few cards, catching a few new powers. But again, mostly she books them. She always keeps the flight because it was the first one she got and she's comfortable with it. She knows how to use it. And it's very, very, very good in terms of utility for catching other things because she's already athletic. So she can now fly.
Yeah.
Then we see them stop at a rest stop and they're consulting their magical map. And the mascot notes that the farthest cards from them, the ones in, I don't know, California, Nevada, the farther west where they're hoping to end up, are starting to disappear. They're just gone dark. Like they do the math and they're like, wait a minute, there's 6 missing already. That's weird. The friend broaches one of those, well, isn't that a good thing? The mascot isn't so sure. Cherry obviously has no idea what's going on, so she's just going with it. She doesn't have much of an opinion on the subject.
Yeah.
Then we have another bigger, on par with the first one at least, action scene where she's chasing down a card. Again, doesn't specifically matter what. And by the end of it, right as she's weakening it, someone else captures it. The ghost beam Fenton thermos sucks it up and it goes, lands in someone else's staff. A man is standing there, maybe college age or so.
Okay.
Enter Lee.
Here we go. Hell yeah. Maybe the second best. I don't remember. The brother's the best character.
There's immediate, just insane confusion, but introductions are made. He says, I'm Lee. I think we're in a similar boat. Nods to the staff that she's carrying. His is slightly different. He essentially says, come back with me to my place so we can talk a little more privately. Because they're just in like a field or something.
Yeah.
They agree and they go back to his mansion.
Wow.
It's big. It's Wayne Manor up in here. He has a butler who offers him refreshments. He has tons of murals and paintings on the walls of Cardcaptors from the past. After the mascot and the friend get settled, he walks Cherry down this big dramatic hall of memories of his family and their many accomplishments. They have portraits of his great-grandfather with that staff he's holding and all this such and such. So naturally, he knows a lot more lore and he has a lot more experience than she does. But she notices something. He doesn't have a book.
Oh, okay.
So she asks about that. He alludes their rarities.
The books?
Yes.
Okay.
They're special. Eventually, after she posed the question, he asks if he can see hers. She gets a pang in her head that she doesn't want to do that. Just kind of a bad vibe. And she changes the subject, keeps walking, and they keep going like this for another minute or two. And he keeps asking about the book. Eventually, she, to distract him from this, stops at a suit of armor on the wall, asks like, oh, Lee, can you tell me about this one? He whacks her on the back of the head, almost knocks her ass out, grabs the book.
Well, once he got serious, he did not waste any time.
No, yeah, she's got blood pouring down from her scalp. She's half conscious, and he uses his staff to capture all of the cards right out of her book. Or he ghostbusts. Yeah, he suction cups, vacuum cleaners, all of her cards out. Just in time, the mascot whips in, body checks him, sends him flying into the wall, and snaps up the book, says, Cherry, we gotta go. And then they have this big, grand, wild, insane escape scene where he's not trying to kill them, but he's got a lot of powers in there and he does not want them to leave. So, fireball, force push, knocking shit down at them, blowing open his own walls, chasing them down, but they eventually get out with the book in tow.
Okay.
Now we've hit the all is lost end of the second act moment. Sherry's really discouraged. They have one card left.
Oh,
and
geez.
it is the flight card that she loves so much.
At least she has that one.
Yeah, and she briefly considers if he's so good at this, if he's such a Cardcaptor boy toy, why don't I just let him fucking do it? I don't wanna. Anyway, I'm doing this because I thought I had to. But she, through reviewing her friend's footage or reading her mom's passage in the book, she's filled with a renewed sense of duty to her lineage and her foremothers and such. She closes the book, resolves, no, screw this, takes her flight card, pockets it, and says, I have to do something about this. This isn't right. So they make a brief plan that we don't see, it's made off screen, and they go to head off Lee at another card that he is now capturing. Just as he's weakened it, she does the same thing he did and just yoink, just scoops it out from under him, grabs it. He gets really pissed off, says, leave me alone, this is my duty, kind of gets really aggro.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's starting to get clear that he's partly like this, because that's who he is, but he's partly like this because he's holding like 40 of the 52 cards on his person. So he's crackling with energy. His skin looks weird. He's all fucked up.
Oh, okay. He's getting kryptonite cancer.
Yeah, it's just sort of, except without the cancer.
Yeah, and without the kryptonite.
Whoa. But anyway, she uses his unstable state to bait him into a chase. She bolts off and leads him into the path of her friends, and the mascot and her friend dart him around to basically keep him chasing them while she runs off to try and capture as many of the local cards because they're near to the West Coast, where the last few remaining ones are at least somewhat near, and she bounces around, grabs as many as she can before she has to fly back at just the last moment to save them, because eventually Lee corners the mascot and the friend and is about to do maybe kill them, and she blasts in with, call it 5-6 cards on her or whatever. So she's powerful and enough to square up. They have a big stare down and then clash. Superhero finale.
Hell yeah.
Low key. Again, it's PG-13 and it's somewhat reserved, but there's a lot of powers at play, so it's kind of cool. A lot of CG, a lot of explosions, a lot of fire and flying and bouncing around. And she perseveres because she, again, is far more athletic, far more determined, and far more pure of heart, if you will.
And a lot less fucked up by carrying cards.
And he is nuts. Like, his eye is twitching, and he's just madly blasting shit trying to get her. And like a car stops in the road in front of them and honks, and he blows up the engine. He's just going kind of nuts. But she eventually overpowers him, scoots around him, and tries something that she didn't even know would work. She captures the cards from him. She blasts him with the Fenton Thermos staff, pulls all the cards out of him, essentially weakening him right there. He screams, his energy recedes, he falls to his knees, visibly weakened, like shaking. He clutches his staff, his hands are shaking, he's just laying in the road, defeated. And he immediately, as soon as he gets his breath back, starts shit talking. He says, your family sucks and my family's always been better than yours. We've bested you before. She's like, what the hell does that mean? But she's trying to ignore him. The mascot's like, we've almost won. There's very few cards left. Let's just get the hell out of here. And Sherry tries to walk away as he's spewing venom at her back and just screaming madly. And he makes an implication that his family had something to do with her mom dying.
Oh no.
Cherry stops in her tracks, grips her staff, turns back towards him, walks over. He stares up at her, still on his knees. For a moment, we think she might just end this fool.
Finish him.
Yeah, essentially. She smashes his staff apart as if it were made of glass.
Ooh.
It shatters, goes
Even
everywhere.
better.
He's left holding two shaking ends of it, and she turns around without a word, walks away. We cut to later. It's the end of the summer, and Cherry is just capturing the last card. She takes it, slips it into the book with all of the rest except for her flight card, which she feels comfortable enough to hold on to, and she knows her own limits. And there's a brief conversation with her friend and her mascot and such about how we can essentially get back to normal now. We've captured all of these cards. We've made your mother proud, the mascot says. And Jerry kind of has a contemplative, nodding look of thinking about the future, thinking about what happened, thinking about her mother, all that. She holds up the book, closes it. We match cut, and we're in the study again sometime later. She's closing the book the same way, puts it on the shelf, walks away. We stay on the book. We hear her footsteps receding. We hear her going upstairs or door closing. Light turns off. Credits.
All right.
Post-credits scene.
Okay. It's always a caveat.
Well, it's basically a superhero movie. We gotta. Lee walks into his half-destroyed mansion looking just ragged, just gaunt. He's not as much depressed by his defeat as seething. He walks in, plops down in this big throne-like chair, and his butler immediately walks over, gives him a glass of champagne or whatever, and asks him, will there be anything else, sir? And Lee stares forward, says, yeah, I think there might be. And then the butler transforms into his mascot, hands him a new staff, different, bigger, older. He takes it in his hands, looks at it approvingly, stares forward at the camera a la Joker from Tim Burton's Batman. Wait till they get a load of me. Cut.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I like Cardcaptor Sakura, but I actually like your rendition a lot more.
Nice. I didn't specifically hate Cardcaptor Sakura. I thought it was okay. It was just kind of cute and dumb and 90s, and I'm not a huge fan of magical girls, but I mean, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Considering some of the problems I've taken with other things, it wasn't that bad. It was the dub was the worst part of it.
Yeah, and you can't blame the anime for the dub.
No, and there's unavoidable cliches, but whatever. It was cute. It was fine. But yeah, I had fun with this one. It was cool. Directed by Ava DuVernay, who she directed Selma. She directed that new Wrinkle in Time movie, and she's directing New Gods for DC.
Oh, interesting.
So, especially with like Wrinkle in Time, which a lot of people give that movie shit, it's really not that bad. And the problems aren't really her fault with it. So she can do that kind of young girl learning powers and a bunch of CG. So I think she has a decent pedigree for it, and she's a good director. She directed like an Oscar-winning documentary, so I think she could do it. I don't have anyone in mind for the cast. I feel like there's someone perfect for the mascot that I didn't hit on. I know there's someone out there, someone with high energy that's on the cusp of annoying without being too annoying, and is kind of funny, but is kind of serious. I have no idea. The only person who I thought of someone was perfect for was Lee.
All right.
Either Dane DeHaan, who you would know as he was the kid who went crazy in Chronicle, and he was Harry Osborn from Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Cool, gotcha.
Because I love him, and he can do the intense Playboy thing. And or the better option, the one that hit me perfectly, is Steven Yeun, who's the kid, well, I guess he's a man now, who played Glenn on The Walking Dead.
Okay, gotcha.
Because he's, obviously in that show, he's really nice, but he's got a really good range now, especially. And I saw him somewhat recently he was in an episode of the new Twilight Zone, and he played a villain, and he was fucking scary. And he can do that kind of debonair, austere, rich kid thing with like the suit and shit. And I think that mixed with some intensity would really work. And I just think it would be awesome. Plus having an Asian American play in a role that was meant to be a Chinese person makes enough sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
But I am finished. That is it.
I do have one extra question.
Never mind. I'm not finished. Go on.
This seemed like a bit of like a lot happened in this movie.
Yeah.
How long is the runtime?
Probably pretty long. I mean, a lot of this is montage, but I mean, it's probably pushing like a 2:20 runtime. Not like, it's not a fucking Peter Jackson movie or something, but it's long.
Okay. All right.
And definitely open for a sequel.
All right.
They're hoping for a sequel.
Yeah, they planned for it.
They put a lot of money into this, and they have a lot of lore left to cover. But now I'm done.
All right.
All right, so that's that. King Kong and Cardcaptor Sakura. I said it right.
I know.
Anything else for today?
No, I'm doing all good.
Cool. All right. So don't forget to follow us on SoundCloud and Twitter and all that good stuff.
You can follow us on Twitter at Jared N, the letter N, Eric 1.
And that'll get you to everything else. And we're on Stitcher now too, so look for that. That was episode 5. Have fun with it. I'm Eric.
I'm Jared.
And thank you for listening to our little live story.